Mr. Porter.
Hello.
How are you today?
It's Saturday for a teacher. It's always a good day.
Oh, but you love teaching. You want
I
every day
do.
to be a teaching day,
I
and
I
it
do,
is.
but a day off is nice.
Yeah.
It is nice.
So Steve and Rachel are a couple of our dearest friends, and whenever we're all together, we kind of bombard Steve with questions constantly about science. And it's constant. We always want to know things. Me and Mark, we're always asking a lot of questions, and he never hesitates to answer them. I don't know why. We should probably know this knowledge by now, but he's so nice and so not judgmental. And it's always fun talking to you because we always have a very educational experience every time we're together, no matter what we're doing. So today, I wanted to ask you, the high school teacher, science teacher, a few random questions. And maybe you can start by briefly telling us how long you've been teaching and why you chose to focus on science.
Oh, I have been teaching at Warrenton High School. This is for 34 years. This year's my 34th. And I've always liked science. I watched, I think the biggest thing that got me into it was Star Trek, the original series. Mr. Spock is really what it was. But I've always liked, I was the creepy kid that never could get a date because I kept spiders and thing jars and stuff like that. And so I always kept critters of all different types. So naturally that becomes a biology teacher and zoology and all kinds of things like that. So that's pretty much the reason why as a kid I just loved nature and things that crawled around and did all kinds of things like that. And so I kept my mother kind of on her toes, it's like
Sure.
just from that kind of thing. But that's generally why it is. And so I teach at the high school. I teach 3 biology classes: anatomy, physiology, zoology, fisheries ecology, which the kids raise salmon, Chinook and coho salmon, and I also teach a geology class. So those are the ones I generally teach.
That's a lot of classes.
Well, yeah, it ends up being a lot after a while. It's true.
Yeah. So, are there any kids that come to your class who aren't thrilled about taking science, but they end up liking it? And if
Oh
so,
yeah.
how does that happen?
Well, as a teacher, what I've learned over the decades is that if you just lecture at a kid, you're going to turn them off to science. You've got to find the interest. You got to find something that's interesting. So you've got to find activities. You got to find video. You've got to find, things that will draw the kid into the subject, because science is very, very, it's absolutely one of the coolest things you can get into, but it's also a lot of work. So if you get the interest, now it's interesting. Now it's easy to learn and it makes it much better. So I have quite a few kids that happens with every year. To be honest, that's the way it is. They come in from, especially from junior high, and a lot of them are turned off by it because they didn't have a good experience with the teacher. It has nothing to do
Yeah.
with the subject. It has to do with the teacher. So, and then you try to get that, you have to kind of turn that around, and I can be successful, not all the time, but a fair amount of the time. I bet you I can get 40 to 50% of the kids turned around at least. It
Wow.
doesn't sound like much, but there's some that generally aren't interested in science. They want to be, they want to be out welding in the shop or in the art room drawing or something like that, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I can usually at least get them turned around where science isn't as bad as they thought it was.
I didn't want to take science because I knew that I was going to have to, and I've told you this before, I was going to have to dissect a frog. And that just took over my whole brain the whole time. It's like, when do we have to do this? I'm not paying attention to anything I'm learning because I know I'm going to have to do this. And I guess it wasn't that bad once I did it, but it was kind of gross.
Well, it is, but you're just looking at this machine that
Yeah.
works with flesh and blood rather than plastic and electricity. But it's once you can look at it a different way and
Yeah.
see that. I mean, if you go out in a shop, it's all gross and greasy and oils everywhere and everything else, right? I mean, it's not a whole lot different in actuality. So you get them to think about it in a different mindset, and then all of a sudden it's pretty cool. And and I have kids who take zoology, and we dissect in that class, and they're going to go, oh, I don't know if I can handle this. And by the end of the year, they're just cutting away, and Not, it doesn't
Really?
make any difference. Oh yeah, it happens all the time.
Wow. So, well, what kind of analogies do you use to maybe incorporate it, well, in your teaching to help students grasp concepts more easily?
The analogies you want to use are something that they understand. So it has to be something that they do. Like if I can use a basketball analogy or you can see in the comic books that's helped me a lot throughout the years. Is
Tell us about that. Tell us about that. How
oh
does that work?
oh I started collecting comics when back in the 70s, and it was something that I don't know. We used to go get haircuts. My dad and I would go get haircuts, and I get mine first, and give me a quarter and say, you can go get something at the store while I get my haircut. And I would go over there and I looked at candy one time, and I looked over and there's comic books on a comic book rack, right? And I go, that's pretty cool. And I picked one of those up, and I was kind of hooked after that. It was kind of this, different world that, you could be in from the one I lived in. And I just kind of got hooked on it to the point where, I started collecting full time and running around the, Hermiston to all the different stores, knowing what comic books came in what day and collecting them. And I still have them all upstairs. It was around 10,000 copies, I suppose,
Wow.
of different comics. But that's one of the things that it's science is your imagination come to life. So you got to be able to think of it before you can do it. And so that's one of the big things with, I'm a sci-fi nut too, on top of the comic books, of course. And so that ability to think about something and then science is the process of bringing it into existence, essentially, is really what it tends to be. So you have to have the imagination.
How do you use a comic book, with teaching science? Like, what would give us an example of how
we got DNA? I mean, one of the big things is the Wolverine's in the background there. He's a mutant. Mutant has a change in his DNA, which gives him the ability to heal very fast. So we can use that for to get the kids interested into science by saying, hey, this is a mutation. Now we can't have beams kind of our eyes, but literally any mutation that you see in the wild is possible in us. Could we have feathers? Could we engineer people with feathers? Because we do have some superheroes who have feathers, right? And it's like, well, how would we do that? And you use that as kind of a catalyst for a discussion on genetics, something like that.
Wow, I bet they love that.
Well, I have to tell you that the comic book stuff, since Marvel's so big now, it wasn't when I was a kid. You were kind of a nerd and everybody looked down on you, but now it's like the greatest thing. And so that's really helped me draw kids into science, because you're going to fly. How would you do that? How would that work? If it was going to be real. Well, it's like, okay, we can't really defy gravity. No, you can't. So you're going to have to do something to, deal with gravity. What's that going to be? And so that helps connect with the kid. It helps kid, focus on what you're trying to get them to, what you're trying to get them to teach, or what I'm trying to teach them. There we go. Is what you try to use that for. So those kind of analogies, when they see those, you can pull from what they understand. They're going to understand your concepts better.
Well, whoever thought that when you were a kid, these comic books would come in so handy?
Oh, I know. Well, it does. I mean, I have almost like a guru-like status when it comes to that kind of stuff. Everybody comes to me and says, Mr. Porter, would Batman beat Captain America in a fight? I'd say, yes. That's absolutely what happened, because, I have the comic books and I know what they can do and everything. So, and they don't even question it. They say, okay, that's good. Right. You owe me $5. That's what you tell the other kid, right? So it's kind of nice. So you get this prestige from having this knowledge that it's useless knowledge, really. It's just all, fiction, but at the same time, the kids put great credibility in it. So they give me that status because I know it. I don't know. It's coming handy. It comes in handy.
I love it. I remember when you made me go see Superman versus Batman. And I'm like, I don't want to go. And you have to go. Oh, okay. And then at the end, I forgot what happened. I think Superman maybe died. And I was very upset at the end.
That's why great thing about comic books, you can always bring them back.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what you were saying. No, it's okay.
Comic books, you knew anything.
Yeah. And so is there a way to connect science to current events? to make it more engaging for
Well, the
students?
current events, drive science. So as
Yeah.
we look and say, okay, gas prices are going up. So inevitably, we're going to start looking for more oil, right? That's geology right
Okay.
there. So and then you got the right now for the kids going to college is huge amounts of money. So they have to decide what are they going to go into. And science has a lot of good jobs because science, it really incorporates the medical field is a great example of that.
Yeah.
You can, so so as their lives are kind of driven and they got to figure out, oh, I've got to make ends meet in an economy that's kind of not doing well and doesn't look like it's going to be doing well for a while. You got to say, well, what can you do? And science has the answer, but nobody wants a D doctor. You want a
Right.
doctor that got a D? Do you want a mechanic that got a D? No,
Yeah,
you don't
want
want
an A plus doctor.
That's what I tell them. So C's aren't going to cut it. You've got to get A's because that's in real life. That's in real life. And so you have to try to get that through their head because they're kids. They have everything. They have great big screen TVs. They have beds. They have everything. So I don't have to do anything. And so you have to really fight that apathy that the kids have, and to say, look, mom and dad's not going to be around forever. You've got to get off your butt and you've got to do something. And science can do. I have way better jobs than history has. If you go to history, yeah. What are you going to do in history? Be a teacher, curate a museum. That's about it. But it's like, I got farmers. You don't eat without us. You don't get fixed without us. We have all the good jobs. We have the great toys. We have the Hadron Super Collider. We knock molecules together and see what comes off the sparks. Right. So we have all the great toys. We have all the great jobs. We look at just the medical field alone. You two-year degree, and you're out making $60,000 a year as a radiologist. I mean, it doesn't. There's some good jobs with very low amounts of training, and you can be in the field very quickly. But you got to be good. You can't. I don't know what this thing says. With an X-ray, you can't do that. You gotta do it, and you got to do it well. And so that's the current events really drives what's going on. What we tell the kids to get ready for. And so that's the reason why having guest speakers come in and talk is really, really good and really impactful, because they won't listen to us. We're supposed to, this is rhetoric that, teachers spew all the time, right? But when a real one comes, I have former students who come in and talk to kids who've been in the military or I got, Jared Cheney is probably my famous one. He's, what is it? He works for Software One, and what they do is they go into corporations, analyze what they do, and then automate as much as they can to save them money. And so he works with Microsoft, he works with Apple, and he works with Google and all this other stuff. And he comes in and says, look, this is what I hire on. And he goes through it all, and they just like, what? This is actually real. It's like, yeah, this is real. This is what he does.
And it does make
he
a
hires
difference.
people and he fires people, and you've got to show up and you've got to do your job. And if you don't, you're gone. It's that simple. And they don't get that. They think they get, I can turn things in late and I can redo tests. And it's like, no, that's here. This isn't a fairy tale land called high school where you can be, captain of the football team and you can be queen of the prom, but that's going to go away. You're not going to get 3 months off, and you're not going to get 2 weeks for Christmas, and you're going to have to go into the real world. And that's what we have to fight all the time, because we really aren't the real world. We're this fantasy land where you just go to school and get every weekends off, and you get a week off for Thanksgiving, and it's like, no, that's not the way it works, and we can go and play basketball and volleyball after school and play other teams, and I can be famous, in the Astorian. And so you fight that. So it's the real world that you try to bring in and show them, look, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to pay bills. You're going to have to pay them on time. You've got to, if you're going to do a job, you have to do it well. You can't do a job and, poorly expect to get paid for it. You can't be on your cell phone with your job. They don't pay you for that. And so you got to try to. Yeah, but high school is kind of disconnected from the real world. It really is. And that's it's a real bane really, for a teacher who's trying to prepare them for the future.
Yeah.
And it's weird too, because you know how you got the bell-shaped curve. You got about 6% get A's, about 12% get B's, 72% get C's. You know, that's the bell-shaped curve. You know, most people are normal C's, right? In Warrenton, I have a inverted bell. I have the kids who get A's, and I don't really have a lot of C's, and I got a lot of kids who fail. And it's not, it has nothing to do with smarts. It has to do with motivation. It has to do with getting stuff done. So the ones who get F just don't do anything. They're very smart, but they just don't see any reason to be at school, so they don't try.
They don't apply themselves.
No. And then my A kids, they're targeted. They know what they want to do. They know what they have to do, and they do it. And that's what we've got now. And that's a function of our culture. You know, there's a lot of things that go into that. Parents, you know, we have a lot of one-parent homes now, kids being raised by grandparents. So there's a lot of breakdown in our culture right now that's really shining through in our kids. So those ones who have stable parents, stable guardians, doesn't have to be, a regular man and wife, type of situation. But anybody who has a stable set of parents that are there do well. I mean, a parent comes in to parent-teacher conference, I don't have to talk to them because their kid's doing well.
Yeah.
And they came in because they're interested. That's the reason why. But I've already been in contact with them. They've already emailed me. They say that kind of thing. And the ones who are failing, I never see their parents.
Oh,
and
that's so sad.
Well, it is. And it comes down to not neglect. It comes down to, I'm a one-parent family. I'm a one parent. I got to work. And so I can't be there for my kid. Raising a kid's a two-person job, right? And that's where we kind of, in the 50s, when you had mom could stay home with the kids were much better off. They were. It wasn't, that job is kind of now with the economics the way they are. You can't have one parent stay home with the kids. You both have to work to make ends meet. So somebody else raises your kids. And that may not be what you want. Moralistically speaking, So there's a lot of challenges. I rag on school not being real life enough, but the kids need a lot of support because a bunch of them don't get it at home. They don't get it from their small community they live in. I have a lot of kids live in the trailer parks and stuff like that. So a lot of bad things going on with drugs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we have to deal with a lot of stuff and try to get those kids pulled up and get them onto something that will make them better. And that could be the military, that could be community college, that could be a university, it could be a trade school. You got to try to find something that they'll fit into, try to get them, figure out finances, how they can actually afford it, whatever, it's what you try to work on. And you're not always successful. You're not.
Yeah.
I got some of these homeless people were in my class at one point.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, and
so
not
sad.
through any fault. And it isn't necessarily fault. Some of them were worked hard, but the situation just wasn't in their favor. It is really, really sad. But you just want to try to get as many kids to be successful. They don't have to be rich. They just have to be successful. As long as they can afford to pay their bills and they're happy. Those two things, if they got that, they're good. You're good,
Well, they are lucky. They're lucky they have you, at least trying to help them.
I try. I really try. That's for sure. I don't like to see, I don't like to fail at anything. And I don't like to fail with kids, especially. That doesn't go over well. So, but you celebrate the successes and you have to look at it like this is like you're not going to win them all. If you're a teacher and think you can, you'll be out of this job really fast. So you got to really celebrate your victories and try, but understand you're not going to be successful all the time.
Yeah,
you're going to have kids that just won't ever do. I have kids who passed away.
Oh,
they've gotten accidents and things like that. And, that happens. That happens. We had a suicide in the 90s. One of our kids committed suicide. Yeah, it's. I mean, high school isn't real life, but it is surely surrounded by it and affected by it, obviously. So there's a lot of stress on our kids and situations that go on, and parents commit suicide. Parents will go to jail. Parents will get into drugs. Rachel and I helped a little gal, was in my class. She was a sophomore at the time, move out of her parents' house because her parents were using drugs.
Oh man.
And she wasn't, but she was definitely affected by that. So that was an interesting situation that involved, a off-duty police officer and and us, loading the truck with her stuff so she could move to her aunt's house in a different city even. So, yeah.
Wow. You've seen it all.
Oh yeah, we've seen a lot. That's for sure. That is for sure.
Well, let's talk about adults. So,
Okay.
is there a way to create curiosity, or could you share an example of a hands-on activity that would engage adults like myself who never liked science or found it boring in school?
There's not a lot of difference between adults and high school kids. High school kids are young adults. They just aren't taking adult responsibility yet. That's the only thing it is. They're very smart. They're very capable. And I have some that take on adult responsibilities in high school. One of the biggest examples of that is Henry Balanceford. He's the mayor of Warrenton.
Oh yeah.
Right. And he, the fish hatchery was shut down. There was no money to run it, blah, blah, blah. And as a freshman, he came in and he had to pick a project for his class, for the class he was in, and he wanted to get that running again. And I was on, Henry, you're not going to get, it's not going to work. You're a freshman. There's no way you're going to get this. This is a better part of $1 million thing to get fixed, right? And by the time he was a junior, he was wearing full suits to school every day, and I had a brand new hatchery. Yeah, so he went and he talked to the governor. He would talk to everybody, and he had a way of convincing people to do stuff for him.
That's why he's the mayor now.
That's why he's the mayor. So anything that I use with kids works for the adults.
So what kind of, besides that, like what kind of hands-on activity would make people interested, make it fun? What kind of a fun activity do you do?
Microscopes.
What do you do?
Microscopes.
Okay.
Pull out the microscopes, and if I pull out microscopes and start showing you stuff, you just like, people go, whoa, this is here's like, the savanna of Africa in a drop of water, right? You got things that eat other things and everything's going off like that. You can look at this and just know that that's right out here in the lake that you're in. You can get that going. A lot of it is just like showing if they can see it. So a lot of multimedia stuff you can pull out and say, here it is. Here's what it looks like,
Yeah.
And they can get it from that. So, anything that's hands-on too. So I have the kids build a construction of a cell just out of construction paper, whatever else. And because they have to manipulate things with their hands, they know it way better. So anything you can do, it kind of depends on the subject. But there's a lot of different things that, you can pull out, but it works with everybody, if I'm doing biology and I have somebody who doesn't understand biology, this will work. If I have a biologist, that won't work at all, obviously, because they already understand it. But
right.
If so, it doesn't matter. It kind of transcends all ages. If they don't have an idea of what the subject is, a lot of the things when we talk are just stuff that I pull out of my sophomore biology class, and that's how I explain it to them. And so if somebody is not understanding a situation, a certain subject or whatever, we can pull out something. I have quite the repertoire of things depending on what it is.
You have a lot of props.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's a lot of it's up here just automatically. Oh yeah, this one will work, and it just pulls out. Can I pull one out right now? No, I have to know what the subject is, and then I can think about what it is. So
yeah, and you have a skeleton too, don't you? Or did you?
Oh yeah, I have a bunch.
You have a bunch of skeletons.
Well, yeah. Well, I have parts of skeletons. I have a real human skeleton that was purchased way before I got to the school. It's been there quite a while. It's very old, very fragile. And I have a plastic one as well. But then I have like bones, and I have a baby whale skull. I have, I don't know, cat skull, a dog skull. I have all kinds of stuff because kids want to hold things. They need to see things and everything. So you've got to have as much stuff like that as possible. I have all jars with all the bugs and, and squid and all kinds of things like that for them to look at and see. So, we did sponges, which are a marine invertebrate. And I pulled out the sponges for the kids to hold and see. One of those is made out of glass. Literally, the organisms make a glass structure that they live in.
Really?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And so you pull out and pull, and what you kind of do is, and the other one's made out of sponge. It feels like a Nerf football. It's the
Yeah.
same type of thing. So you know, and you got to keep the kids kind of on their toes. So you go over and say, this is very fragile. And you kind of show them that it's very, you know, it's made of glass, and you kind of, you know, it makes an impact when you hit the table. Then you say, and you grab the other sponge and throw it at them. Say, catch this. But it's the spongy one, and they just doesn't do anything, you know. So, and that, you know, you got to do things like that to kind of keep them with you, and so they don't nod off, because they can only keep their attention for about 10 minutes on any one subject. You got to talk about one thing, and then you have to switch it up and talk about something else in a different way, and keep them going. Because there's no way a kid today with their kind of instant gratification with their phone, right? Yeah, they have to, you have to keep them engaged, because they can only keep their attention on something about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's best to show and tell, not just tell.
Yeah, you go through something, show a short video to reinforce that, right? And you talk a little bit, show a short video, or what else, or here's a activity, you know. It's like, you know, so here it is, do an activity, show a video, and then just keep you know, mixing it up, so you can always keep their attention.
Yeah,
but if you want to go in and just
engaged.
lecture, and that's really hard for kids to go into college, and all of a sudden here's an hour and a half lecture. They struggle with that hard. You know,
they're like, where's the fun?
Well, that's it. That's what they want. That's what they want. But we also have to teach them that not everything in life is fun.
That's right.
You're going to have to pay taxes. You're going to have to sit through boring meetings. It's not an option.
Yeah, that's good that you teach them that too.
Yeah, you have to be able to handle it. If you can't, you're going to have a tough time in this world. There's a lot of things that are just boring. It's the way it is. You know, DMV, that's pretty boring. I'm saying, that's the reason we have these things. I tell the kids that these are portable entertainment systems.
That's right.
So this entertains me when I'm bored, right?
Yes.
But sometimes I have to pay attention. I can't be on this because it will take my attention away, and I'll miss something that's important for my job or whatever. And so sometimes you got to put it away.
I think that happens to all of us.
Oh, yeah.
We get very easily distracted.
Oh, yeah. But you and I were raised in a time where it was very boring. And that was actually a good ability to have. Actually.
That's right.
That's very true. The kids nowadays, they have to have something stimulating them all the time, or else it's boring. And I tell them, no, it's not boring. You're boring. You're not. If you do something, you're not bored. Even if it's not fun, you do something, you're not bored anymore. And they don't understand that. They think if I'm not having fun, I'm bored. It's like, no, you can do something. I can mow the lawn. I'm not bored.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't sit there and be bored. Do something and you won't be bored. Do your work and you won't be bored. And they go, and hopefully, you know, they get that through their heads at some point. You know, it's like, I don't like to sit around. I hate correcting papers, but I'll do it because I don't want to sit there and do nothing, because I'll be bored. You know, that's the way it is. You know, I get it done. The quicker I get it done, I'm done. I don't do it anymore. I can
be
do
bored
whatever
and
I
do
want.
it anyway, right?
Yeah, then I can do something that's fun, right? But I don't know. They don't get that yet. They think they have to have fun all the time, and that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. There's going to be times that are not going to be fun.
Yeah, that's true. So, what's the most surprising way science applies to everyday life that people may not expect?
Well, just these. This is science. This is what we call applied science.
Okay.
So what you do is you and that was the great thing about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was able to see into the future and say, what can I make that everybody will want to buy? And he came up with the iPod first, right?
Yes.
Carry your music in your pocket. You can have all your music in your pocket, right?
Yes.
And that evolved into, he says, what happens if I do want to put a phone app on it?
Yeah.
This is not a phone. We call it a phablet, right? It's a tablet, but it's a phone app.
Right.
Is really what it is. So that's the important thing to kind of understand, is the impact that science has on our society. You know, we have these, you always heard about the Industrial Revolution. We've had several industrial revolutions. The steam engine was one of them. That it revolutionized travel, right? So
Right.
now I could get goods from one place to another, things like that are perishable. I could get them there because it can move quick. Electricity was one because now we had all these gizmos that could make our lives easier in our house. The car was another that was able to transport individuals wherever they wanted to go. Computers, another one. And then we have AI is the newest one. So AI is changing things, and how that will work out, we'll have to wait and see. But each one of these is a fundamental change. So technology is science. Science you get your hands on, you can manipulate it, you can come up with stuff, and it's just having that ability to look into the future and see what everybody will use is that's the imagination. That's where
Yeah.
the science fiction comes in, because this is science fiction to me.
Yeah.
I was watching Star Trek, and Kirk would pull out his communicator, right, and talk. Well, mine can go on the internet. Mine can play MP3s. Mine can play video. Kirk's couldn't do that. And he was in the 22nd century or 23rd century or something like that, right?
Oh,
So that's, you're looking at, so this, you told me when I was a kid, you put a computer in your pocket. At that point, they were like the size of a desk.
yes,
And
they
the
were.
big ones were the size of a room, right?
Right.
And now you can put them in your pocket. I would have said, no way. So the technology is constantly changing. It's all driven by our understanding of science.
Okay.
So science itself doesn't tend to do much. Business grabs scientists, and then they create things that they can sell. So we're just a tool in the toolbox. You get your physicists, you get your biologists, and everything else, right? All these different types of scientists. Well, I want to make a vaccine. Well, I'm going to grab microbiologists, and I'm going to make a phone. These are going to be electrical engineers that I'm going to grab for this, right? I want to make a washing machine. Well, that's mechanical engineers. That's it. So that's it. So science drives everything.
Yeah.
And so it just, your imagination after that is all it takes. You have to imagine it and then say, can I do it? And Henry Ford did that with the car, or Steve Jobs did that with the modern cell phones that we have today. And they're constantly coming up with stuff. That's the cool part about it.
It's never ending.
No, it isn't. Actually, technology is going exponential. So we're actually using technology to help us come up with technology. Computers are designing computers.
Yes.
So we can just plug in what we want and it's going up. So there's a point where we can't even predict what it will be like. It's a point that's called singularity. And it's supposed to have like in the late 2030s, early 2040s, where technology will change so fast on a daily basis that we don't even know what it will be like. And it's not too far away. It's just computers and technology help us make more technology. And pretty soon the technology will do it all by itself. We won't even do anything. That's what the AI is. AI will say, oh, you need this? I'll make it for you.
I was going to ask you about AI but later, but I'll ask you now. What do you think about AI in schools?
It's terrible.
Tell me why.
Well, right now it's like the kid can go and say, Chat GPT, it's everybody has access to it. You can tell Chat GPT says, I need a research paper with annotated bibliography on King Lear, comparing King Lear to the Fool. And I need 15 pages long, go. And it will do it for you. And then they can turn it in and say,
it gives false information too.
It's true. It's
I've
true.
noticed.
But also sophomores will get false information.
Yeah, exactly.
They just write, so that isn't as big a deal, but where they can actually go through and have something else do the work for them, then they never learn it. They don't know what
So
to
how
do
you stop that? That's
a challenge. Right now it's like, it's very difficult. These things are a big pain in the butt. They're one of the most powerful tools a kid has in their pocket. You can answer any question anytime. It can help them do a whole bunch of things. And what do? They want to play Facebook and play games and then arrange fights out, during school because you made me mad. So let's go outside and go fight, or I'll take a picture of the test, so they use these things in bad ways. So we got to say, you can't use them. You can't use these things in school.
But then they leave school and they can use them.
Yeah.
When they're not in school.
Yeah. And so, and we get drawn into, the school gets drawn into things that happen over Facebook, things that happen over Twitter, because this kid said this and everything else. They come home, they go back to school and they punch them in the face. So
Yes.
inevitably, this needs to become a very, very big problem for us to deal with. But at some point, we have to kind of, as a school, we have to embrace them, and we have to teach the kids etiquette. This is what you use it for. This is what you don't use it for. Here's why. A lot of times we don't teach them why, right? Why do I take math? Why do I take math? Why do I take math? Because you're going to use it. Math is the language of the universe. You know, having a good command of math means that you can make this. This is what you do, right? And so they don't understand that. So that's what I have to do in my classes. What do I need to use biology for? I'm glad you asked. And then we look at finances. Look, you have to pay for stuff. You can do that if you're a doctor. You're not going to have a problem. You know, that's one practical reason. The other one is you're alive. Don't you want to know how you work? Because you put the wrong things in the system, you gum it up, you get a heart attack, you get a stroke, you die.
That's right.
Or you go to the hospital, you just pay lots of money.
Yes.
Smoke a cigarette, and you're going to have to go. You're going to be paying huge amounts of money later on for COPD and emphysema.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to. That's the reason why. And then they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know, so you got to that practicality. But yeah, that's kind of what we look at. But no, AI. I think there's a problem too that, you know, if you depend on something, you can't do it for yourself. Now, AI needs electricity. Most of our electricity is generated by coal fire. We burn coal, boil water, run a turbine, generate electricity. We run out at some point. We're going to run out at some point. So we're basing everything we have on something. Oh, this right here, if I can't plug it in, it doesn't work.
Right.
So if it makes all my decisions for me, and then all of a sudden I can't use it, or there's not any electricity, or God
right.
forbid,
So what happens if you have a power outage or something, you can't use it, and they're depending on that?
That's right. I can't add and subtract because this adds and subtracts for me. I can't write because this writes for me. I have some serious problems.
Yeah, that's really, this is a tough one, isn't it?
It is. It's really hard. As the technology advances, schools don't advance that fast. Like
right.
my building was built in 1963, 3 years before I was born. So I was like, there wasn't enough plugs for my microscopes. I had to have the electrician come and put in plugs because there wasn't. They used little mirrors, you know, on the microscopes and used the lights. And so, so it's hard for schools who are kind of trapped in the 1920s. You know, if you were in the 1920s, you came into my room, everything would seem normal. You sit in a desk where I have tables, but you sit at a table, teacher lectures at you for 55 minutes, and then a bell goes off, you go to the next class. Right. It wouldn't be any different for us if we went back to school now. It'd be exactly the same format. And it's like, but the world has changed, and we haven't changed with it.
The classroom has not.
No, it has not. It has not. We're trying to put kids who have with technology, they're totally in a different area than you and I were when we were in school.
Right.
We were trained to sit there, you know, and do stuff. But
that's the world's changed.
Yeah, the world's changed in a big way. These kids are going to have way harder than you and I did. I worked on a farm for $3 an hour, right? Yeah. For 3 months, and I had enough money I could pay for school the rest of the 9 months with housing and have no debt. Wow. And they can't. They're going to rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt just to go to school. Yeah. And then they're going to have to pay that off. So they're going to have a car payment, essentially a car payment, no car, for years, which is really going to impede their ability to buy a house, have a family, blah, 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 right? So it's
so scary.
Well, it is. It's a terrible situation. When you look at it right now, I think we're at, you know, I'd have to look up the numbers here. It's about $1.3 trillion in student loan debt alone.
Oh, man.
In the United States. And it's going up like exponentially now too, because it's in our society, you have to have that certification, that license, that degree, you know, this piece of paper that says, yes, you can do this. Now you can start at the bottom and work your way up, but if you got the paper, you get to start ahead of that. And it's a profit making thing. Universities make profit. And so they're going to profit off kids' future. If you don't go here, you can't have a future.
Right.
And I look at it, I go, that's not a good idea in a modern capitalistic, you know, scientific system that requires people who can do things, you don't want to put them out of business because they don't have money.
Right.
So you can have an Einstein, but if you can't afford to go to university, you can never hone those skills and become the person he could be. And back in the Sputnik days, when that they hey, we want a scientist. If you want to be a scientist, we'll pay for it.
Right.
Mathematician, anything like that, then we'll find you a spot at, Lockheed Martin or NASA or something like that. And you have 30 years, man, and we'll pay for everything. And of course, you got that good job, and then you pay taxes, and you paid more in than they ever paid you. They ever paid for you to go to school.
Right.
So it's actually in the government's best interest to actually pay for the kids' education, because then they'll get a good job. Good job means they'll make more money, which means they'll pay more taxes. But it's all about profits now. What can I make right now? And it's unfortunate there's not that look into the future. If we didn't, we wouldn't be 34 trillion dollars in debt, because we're just leaving that to our kids, and our kids are going to have to deal with that mess, and that's not right. That's not fair to them.
Yeah.
But they didn't do anything to deserve that. It's just us being irresponsible and spending money that we don't have, and then putting in probably our great grandkids are going to have to be the ones who, and they're not. I don't even think they can deal with it now. And so we may have just totaled the system for them, their future. Right. At some point, you get so much debt that your dollar's worth nothing, And so it's like, so are we destroying the future for our kids? And I have to go in front of them and be the bearer of bad news. It's like, here's the economic, here's those analogies. Here's an economic obstacle course that you have to navigate. It's not going away. It's not your fault, but you still have to navigate it.
Right.
And there's a lot of pitfalls. You fall into it. There's homelessness out here, right? You want to get a house, and the house costs are going up.
Right.
I got my tax bill this year, and they raised the assessed value on the house by $80,000.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So in 10 years, my house has doubled its price or doubled its value. And it's like, are my kids that are in sophomores right now going to be able to afford a house? And I got to be honest with them. I'm not going to, say, oh, you'll be fine. It's like, no, that's not the case. You guys got to work hard. You guys got to know the system. You got to know if you know the rules in Monopoly, you can fudge them. You know what you can do and when you can do it to maximize your profit. But if you don't know those rules, then you do this stumbling around. You can lose a lot of money along the way. You don't want to do that. Knowledge is the key.
Hopefully they'll listen to you.
Well, hopefully. I got some that won't.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's like, okay. It's like, I can try.
You did what you could.
The most of the kids do. But I got a few that just, some of them have to go out and they have to get hit by that, life's 2x4.
Right.
It's like, and they get smacked in the back of the head.
Right.
And so I had a kid one time said, I was talking about kids and how expensive children are and how we're putting off having kids until our late 20s, 30s, even 40s, right? Because they're so expensive. You got to have some serious cash to have a kid, right? And one kid's, I'm not having kids. I'm not having kids. And the advantage of being here for 3 decades is I see that kid 10 years later and he's holding 2 little hands walking down the street.
Oh, how funny.
I say, hey, Ryan.
What happened?
I thought, and he goes, I know. I said I wasn't gonna have kids. It's like, that's not necessarily the case, And so I think it's interesting that way. But we gotta teach the kids, obviously, but we also tell them what's like, look, here's the realities, and that reality's not a pretty one right now. It'd be nice if it was back, in the 80s when the whole economy was booming, and everything else.
Yeah.
But even then you had was it 83, 82, there was a downturn in the economy. 2000, we had the dot-com bust, 2008, housing goes down.
That's right.
It isn't all going to be roses.
It's not
all going to be roses, no.
But you can only do what you can do, and you can only explain this to people, and they can take it or leave it.
Yeah, and going back to the AI stuff, it's like you're just taking away knowledge from kids. You're taking away knowledge from people that if you don't have access to that anymore, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing. There's a reason to learn to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, even though you can do a calculator. What happens if you don't have a calculator?
That's right.
Yeah. And to be fair, our ancestors who came all over the Oregon Trail in a covered wagon could do way more than we can. They could take and cut down trees and make their own houses and
That's right.
make their own tools, and so we can't do that anymore. No, we have to go buy them. And if I can't buy them, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And if I don't, even our modern construction is all based on refined materials like 2x4s.
Yeah.
Not a lot of those in the woods, right?
Right.
But back then they could make their own 2x4s. They had the tools and the know-how to make their own, shape their own wood the way they wanted it.
Yeah, people worked very, very hard.
Oh, they worked very, very hard. Yes, they did. They had to. Nobody's going to do it for them.
Yeah.
And that's what the kids have to realize is nobody's going to do it for you.
That's right.
So am I supposed to give you my money? Oh, wait, let me turn that around.
Yes.
You're supposed to give me your money for free? Does that sound like a good deal? No, that's not a good deal. You giving me money is great, but if I have to give you money, no, that's terrible.
Right.
So they don't think about that. They just think that the government's going to pay for everything.
Yeah.
And you call it entitlement.
Oh, yeah.
I'm entitled. I live in the United States. You should just take care of me. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. You try. It's all you can do. And sometimes they have to go out and experience it. They have to go out and have that,
You kind of have to, right?
Yeah, they come to Jesus moment, it's like, oh yeah, I actually have to work.
Oh yeah, what he said makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, you have these, and sometimes that happens in high school. When I go over, my first thing I do in biology is go over, here's a mortgage. Here's a typical mortgage. $1,500 is a typical mortgage in Oregon. Okay. And then you go, let's go to San Francisco. Now it's $2,500 a month. You want to live in San Francisco? That's what you got to have just to pay your mortgage. That doesn't count your electricity, your cable, all this other kind of stuff. And then you look at a pizza. You buy pizza in San Francisco. It's going to be, twice as much as it is here.
Yeah.
And they don't get that, right? And yet that's where all the jobs are. They're in the big cities where it's way more expensive. And so you go, and someone go, oh, I didn't know that. Other ones go, I don't have to worry about that. I'm fine. I don't have to worry about that. It's like, well, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm with my parents. I'll just take over, their fishing boat and it'll be fine. It's like, the fishing isn't doing too well right now. It's like, there is this thing called pollution and all this other kind of stuff that's having an effect on those things. And so can you depend on that and it can't be 30 years anymore. This whole idea of retiring after 30 years, which I'm lucky I got into that, but that was okay when the average lifespan in the 1960s was like 65.
Exactly.
But now it's 78 and it's rising. Right. And so you're only supposed to work for 30 years and then 40 years of the government paying, but you never put in. It's like, that's how you go bankrupt. Yeah. Right. So I tell the kids, you're not going to be working for 30 years. You're going to be working 50, 60 years at least. So you got to, if you want to retire before that, you got to put money into it. Right. You can't just spend it all on licorice and movies. You got to, that's it. You need to put it away, get a Roth IRA, get something. That's right. And start making your money, make money for you. That's it. So I do this in biology.
Wow. That's interesting.
Because if you don't have money, you don't eat and you die. That's biology.
Yeah. Okay. But to sum it up.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a couple more questions.
All right.
These are random. Is there a way to slow down the aging process?
They're working on that. Aging process.
Tell me more.
Okay, so what aging is damaged DNA. So I have a whole bunch of cells, right? And they're all working together. My skin cells are all working together. But chemicals and radiation cause your DNA to get messed up. You go and it's like a bowling ball. Here's another analogy. Your DNA is the pins. They have to be in a certain orientation. And I roll the bowling ball and knocks down the pins. Now, all the pins in the same position they were when the thing automatically grabs them and puts them back into place?
Yes.
No, they're not. They're random. They just grab them and put them back, and they're the same orientation, but the different pins have been moved around.
Okay, because
that
some
makes
have been
sense?
knocked down and some have just been moved a little bit.
Right. Same thing happens with radiation and chemicals in your DNA. It's like a bowling ball. The chemical or radiation goes through your DNA, breaks it up. You have systems to put it back in, but it doesn't proofread it to see if it's back in the right order.
Oh,
Right. Okay. So my DNA is messed up. Now my DNA doesn't make the stuff necessary for my cell to function correctly. So that cell doesn't work anymore, or it doesn't work as well.
so it's damaged.
It's damaged. Yes.
And
And
that's what
so,
causes us to age.
yeah. And then that cell, if I have to get a new cell, it's going to divide. It's going to copy the DNA and the damage too. So it doesn't know that it's wrong. So now I have two cells that don't work. And then I get four cells that don't work. And after time, all of our cells don't work as well. That's called growing old. So what I need to do is I need to be able to go in and repair the DNA it's gone wrong. So we have, this thing called nanotechnology, where you have these microscopic robots that they, are thinking about being able to inject in you, and they'll be able to go through your DNA and say, oh, that A and that T need to be swapped because they're not in the right place. That's the kind of technology that they're working on now. And yeah, because let's face it, immortality would sell.
Yeah.
So pharmaceutical companies are working on and there's also like things on the DNA or on the chromosome called telomeres that fall apart. And they're thinking about, there's other things that are more technical that they're trying to go in and keep from happening. And so if not, you won't be able to get rid of aging, but you could probably put it off for a very long time. And that with organ transplants, if we get closer and closer to getting organs that are tissue type the same as your own, talking about cloning technology, it is very possible to swap out, a 7-year-old heart for a 15-year-old one, and being able to last a lot longer. When Rachel and I both signed up for a life insurance policy, they came in and took our blood. They want to make sure we didn't have any pre-existing conditions and things like that, right? Because they want us to pay into that policy more than they'll ever pay us out.
Right.
That's the whole thing, right? You know how that works.
Yes.
All right. So, but when they showed us the sheet, the age went to 140. And I said, 140? What are you talking about?
Love it.
Yeah. And they're saying it's like, we think that medical progress, at least at our company, our medical progress is going to allow you to live longer than just 90.
I'm planning on, I always tell everybody, I'm planning on 120 and beyond.
Well, it's very possible with technology that we have, and it's exponential growth. We're coming up with new stuff all the time.
I love it.
Oh yeah. So and that was 25 years ago.
Yeah. It's much more advanced now, right?
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. In fact, and this is what happens in the pharmaceutical companies. It used to be that scientists would do their science at universities and they'd publish and everybody could read what they did. And they go, oh, that's what he did. Oh, that fits here. And you had science really roll along. It's kind of changed because what happens is pharmaceutical companies will hire, I'll say buy scientists, and then they work in seclusion because you don't want your competitor to figure out what you're working on, because if they figure out before you do, they'll patent it and they'll make the money. So we work over here in secret. And this one over here. So Moderna works over here in secret. Pfizer works over here in secret. And Johnson & Johnson, they're all working on the same problem, like COVID. They were all working on the same problem, but they're coming at a little different angles and different technologies and things like that, right? And so and so it's very, very close. You don't know what they're doing. So I don't know what they're doing until it hits the market. Once it hits the market, you go, oh, great. We got, here's a thing for immortality. It's like, what
I'd like one of those, please.
Yeah, no doubt. So science isn't an open thing anymore because whoever gets it first gets the money. And so they even have NDAs, non-disclosure agreements.
Yes.
As a scientist, you have to sign an NDA saying that you won't say anything, you won't publish anything, you won't even talk about what you're working on in our thing, right?
Yeah.
So the whole nature of science has really changed because of that. We still have the university system, but anybody who's really good, they can go work for, Moderna and make twice as much money.
Right.
But anything you come up with is Moderna's.
Oh,
That's part of the contract.
that's true.
That's part of
Yes,
the
you
contract.
signed
So I came up
something.
with this. I
Yeah.
could be a billion. No, no, no. You're going to give that to Moderna. Daryl's going to be the billionaire on this. You'll
Right.
get paid well, but you're not going to keep anything.
You don't get the credit.
No,
Yeah.
no. That's well, you probably get the credit, but not the patent.
Well, right.
Yeah. It's yeah, we're great for you. We'll give you all the credit you want because that doesn't cost us anything, right?
Right. Interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's changed. Science has changed big time. It's now just kind of the pawn of the of industry. It really is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we were talking about aging. So
Yes.
speaking of aging,
Oh,
as you know, our dog Holly is 16 and a half years old, and she has slippery feet. Like I know your American Eskimo had the same thing where they're just slipping all the time. So we wanted to get something for her that, you know, we see on Amazon or whatever, that they have these little socks or boots. But we talked to a vet and she explained to us that that's not a good idea because the dog's sweat glands are in their feet. So can you talk about that? Do you know about that?
I can only guess.
Okay.
My guess is, you know, they have pads, and the pads are like skin,
Yeah.
like your skin.
Mhm.
Now they don't have sweat glands in their fur. They thermoregulate by panting. That's how
Right.
they get rid of their heat. It's not an efficient system. So dogs can outrun you probably in the first 100 to 200 yards. After that, if you do a jog, you'll outrun your dog because we can turn our whole body into a radiator. You
Right.
don't sweat on it. It becomes a radiator and it gets rid of heat really, really nicely. Now, we're not super fast, but in a jog, we can pretty much outdo just about any animal on the planet.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. In the 20K, you know, it's like not
Yeah.
not the 100 meter, but the 20K, right? So if we're because we just jog and we pretty much can jog all day, you know, if you're in halfway decent shape.
Of course.
Now, so the dog has pads, and my guess is that's like skin, so they're going to have sweat glands on it in order to keep them cool because they're going to be on hot surfaces and stuff. So it makes some sense that they would
Because she
have
said,
some
don't
kind of,
don't put those on the dog's feet because they need
well,
to, I don't know if you said they need to breathe through their feet or something. I don't
well, you have to get rid
remember
of
the
that
whole
because
thing.
remember too is that when you have a lot of sweat, you get a lot of bacteria growth, body odor. That's the reason why dogs' paws smell like Doritos. It's body odor.
Oh, really? Is it
Yeah,
Doritos?
yeah. It
I don't
smells
know
like
if my
mine does
dogs
anyway.
smell that
That's what
good.
Maverick's saying. It's like, or Cheetos, or no, not Cheetos. What is it? The Fritos. That's what it smells like. You know, it's like what's it? So my guess is you don't want the bacteria to grow up because you're getting up with skin infections. For Takani, we put down rugs.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing that too. We're
Yeah.
wall-to-wall rugs here. But I
That's
would
it.
rather
But
put on some
Takani ended up
shoes.
navigating the rugs. He figured it out. If I go on the rugs, I
Exactly.
wouldn't do that. So he was pretty good about navigating. So we didn't have to put him down everywhere. We just had a path to the water dish and a path to his bowl and then a path to his favorite pillow he liked to lay on.
Yeah, you should come and see our houses, and they're like all mismatched.
Oh, ours were
Like a
too.
big
Ours
awful
were too.
puzzle.
This is true. This is
But
true.
because we don't want to put boots or socks on her, so and not that she would even want them. I mean, she'd
No,
probably
no,
take
she
them
would
right off.
probably sit there and try to chew them off anyway. So I don't think that would work. Dogs don't like anything on their feet. They don't even like grabbing their feet in a lot of cases. It's like, no, don't touch my feet.
Yeah, exactly. Don't touch the feet.
That's it. But that's my guess. But I don't know about that. But it makes some
Okay.
sense. It makes some sense to me.
Okay. Let's talk about, here's another subject for you. Let's talk about global warming and climate change. What are they? What causes both? And are they the same thing or is there a difference?
Global warming popped up. I want to say, gosh, was it 2006 that you had An Inconvenient Truth? It was a documentary. It was made by former Vice President Al Gore, and in that it was An Inconvenient Truth. Something about and it actually had global warming, colon, and it said something about global warming after it. That's where the term global warming got kind of coined, or at least put into international awareness. Does that make sense? And it became this thing. It's like global warming, global warming, global warming. Now that stuck with us for quite a while until about, gosh, I want to say not quite 10 years ago, probably somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago, they started, all of a sudden it changed. It's like, oh, we're called climate change, we're called climate change. And it was, well, why did you change it? You know, everything else. Well, I don't know why that is. Now it's all climate change. You really don't use the term global warming anymore. They've kind of changed it. And I think the reason why is we're talking global warming, the temperature's going up.
Right.
Well, it also goes down. Ice ages.
Okay.
So it will go down too. So climate change.
Climate change about extreme weather changes? And then global warming is like a slow.
No, not really.
Right.
It turns out that the inconvenient truth was showing that glaciers were melting and there was more droughts and things like that. And that what we're doing, burning fossil fuels, is releasing carbon dioxide, and it's causing a greenhouse effect, and that's what's causing it. But that's predicated on one theory or on one idea that is completely and totally wrong.
Okay.
That our climate is stable. It is definitely not. No, it ranges somewhere like a sauna at the North Pole, I guess. You know, it's like that, to the continent's covered in 5 miles of ice. That's called an ice age. And so our climate is not stationary at all. It never has been. Even if we weren't here, it wouldn't be. And so when you look at the science of it all, they don't know what's going on. It really comes down. You have those ones who are, you know, industry that's in favor of us using fossil fuels, like Exxon. I mean, it's like they're saying, we don't know what's going on. Just go ahead and use the gas. No problem. No problem. We're okay. And then you have the extremists in science who say, oh man, we're killing the entire world. We got to stop or we're going to die. Right. And there's everything in between. There's everything in between. And so for most part of the last million years, this has pretty much been ice. I mean, there's been a little bit between it. 12,000 years ago, we had an event where there was some rapid warming, and it melted the ice, the continental glaciers. Now, the continental glaciers only came down a little bit into the United States. It didn't cover the entire world. The equator was still pretty warm, right? But they did come down, and they were very, very thick. So at New York, it was like 2 miles up. So if you were in New York and you were back in the ice age, you'd have to go 2 miles higher, and that's where you'd be standing on top of the ice. And you pull that in the ocean level drops because you're pulling all that water out of the ocean. It snows, snow builds up over time, and under its own weight crushes itself into ice, and you get 2 to 5 miles worth. That's a lot of snow that doesn't melt. So it stays cold for a very long period of time, right? And so about 12,000 years ago, there's a rapid warming where we actually broke some ice dams that drained some big, huge, like Lake Missoula drained across Washington and Oregon. That you've heard of the Channel Scablands, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a big, huge flood because an ice dam broke, and something about the size of one of the Great Lakes drained all the way, right? So about 12,000 years ago, there was supposedly, and again, this is science, and we have little pieces of information. We make big stories out of it. So it could be some other things going on here. And then it warmed up and it stayed fairly stable, which gave us, man, woman, a chance to, we were struggling to survive. Filling our bellies every day was our number one priority. You couldn't stop and do anything else, or else you starved, right? Well, now it was warm. And so plants would grow easily, and we could have farms. And all of a sudden we had a spare time, and I want to make my life easier. So we started to innovate, and, so it's only been in that last 12,000 years that we've had a nice stable temperature, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't necessarily stable because number one thing that causes heat to the planet is the sun. So if the sun, and we're going towards solar maximum, so every 11 years your sun gets hotter, gets brighter, right? Is what it is called solar maximum. In 11 years, it will dim down. It'll do that. And then our orbit is not, it isn't just going like this, it's doing this, going around, it's doing this kind of thing, right? And so we get closer, we get warmer. We get further away, we get colder. And so, and what are the dynamics we don't really understand? We're still working on that. So the idea that our carbon dioxide that's being put into the atmosphere for some of the scientists is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. And, and this is all sequestered carbon that's biology that's died and shoved into the ground and turned into coal and oil. That's all biology. It's tropical rainforest that sat there for years and years. Trees would die, get pushed into the ground, and they get compacted into coal and compacted and heated into oil, right? And we pump that out and we burn it, we turn it back into carbon dioxide. So in a way, we would be turning the environment back into what it was a long time ago, is really one of the ideas, right? So what's going on? There's a couple of scenarios here. We don't know if we're coming into an ice age or going out of one. The temperature is going up, so the idea is that, well, we must be coming out of one, right? But we still have part of North America covered in ice. Greenland is 2 miles of ice, and Antarctica is 5. And when it's warm, all the ice is gone, and all the oceans are 400 feet higher than they are right now, which isn't good for us, by the way. And so, so here's the scenario: if we're going into an ice age and we're pumping out this carbon dioxide, we must be pumping out a lot because we're making it go up. But also, too, I also have to tell you this: is that a volcanologist kind of is not always happy with, oh, your suburban's putting out a lot of carbon dioxide. Volcanoes put out thousands of tons a day of carbon dioxide. So how much is that of an invisible, almost weightless gas? And we have like thousands of those that are active, so it's like, so we're not the only carbon dioxide producers on the planet by far, right? And so with that in mind, so as we go back to the scenarios is number one, and we've had an increase in volcanic activity. It means more carbon dioxide going in. So if we are going into an ice age, between natural production of carbon dioxide and our production of carbon dioxide, we're forcing the temperature to go up, because the carbon dioxide makes this veil, the heat comes in, gets locked like a greenhouse, and you warm up. Venus and it's all based on Venus. Venus has a runaway greenhouse effect where it's 900 degrees Fahrenheit all over the planet. It doesn't matter if you're in the North Pole or anywhere else. Lead boils on that planet anywhere. It's like, because as most of its atmosphere is made of carbon dioxide, but it has way more than we've got, right? The amount of carbon dioxide we have in our atmosphere is 0.04%.
Oh,
that's it. And trees pull it out. That's how they make sugar, or cellulose. Cellulose is a type of sugar. They build their bodies and make sugar for us. That's what wheat and corn is, right? Out of carbon dioxide and water. So they're breathing it in, so that we have a way of getting rid of it. It's normal. So deforestation is not good for reduction of carbon, right? So anyway, going back to the scenarios, if we're going into an ice age, then we must be putting a lot of carbon dioxide in. The world's putting a lot of carbon dioxide, making the temperature go up. Not a likely scenario. The other one is that it is going up naturally. It's been stable for a while. Now it's heading up. And so we're adding to it, can make it go faster than it's supposed to, or it's just going up at a normal rate and we're not having much of an impact. So don't really know what the answer is. In science, you become fanboys of certain ideas. Fanboys of Big Bang Theory, theories are the theory of evolution. You get fans that if you challenge that, they go, no. It's like watching like Cleveland Brown fans, right? Back when they were won no games, people still showed up and painted themselves brown and thought they had the best team in the league.
Right.
Right. So we have these people that you could show them they're wrong. Look at that scoreboard, Browns fans. It's 35-0, and you still have the best team? Yes, we do. So you can do that as a scientist too. So you can show them that they're wrong, but they're going to say, no, your data's wrong.
Oh.
And so we have this, and we all do this. We all are fans of something, right? And in science, that kind of tends to lock it up, so to speak. It's kind of like Congress. It's like Republicans and Democrats. They can't agree on anything, so nothing happens.
Right.
That's where we're at right now.
With the global warming.
With the global warming. It's like, what do we do? So as a consumer, if science doesn't know what's going on, the politicians don't know what's going on, what do I do? Well, I
what do we do? What do we do?
Well, we put gas in our car and go to work. I mean, that's it.
Just go live your life.
No, and then there's a push here. There's a push here to go green. There's a push here to go green.
Yeah.
And there's a lot wrong with that right now. Number one, we don't have the technology to do it. We have electric cars, but the electric cars take huge amounts of rare earth minerals and silver and all kinds of things. Their batteries, they don't last long, and you have to replace a $20,000 battery. And so for a $70,000 car, changing it, after 5 years, changing a $20,000 battery isn't really going to work. And then you got to hook it up to a power grid that's built in the 1950s and 60s. It's not built for that. And then you have to hook it up to coal fire plants. So you're just going to burn coal. You have to burn more coal instead of gasoline. So
and yet they say all cars are going to be electric in how many years?
No, it's just no way. It's not, because right now electrics are sitting on the in the lots, and they're not selling.
Ah, okay.
So they're just not selling. And so there's been, like, I think it was it Ford, Chevy, I think even Toyota said, I was just Toyota or not, but a bunch of them said, we've canceled a bunch of our EVs because they're simply not selling.
Right.
So that's what you got. Now, we hate on fossil fuels a lot, but they have revolutionized us too. Remember Henry Ford? That was one of the industrial revolutions, right? Where we can move stuff back, we move ourselves, we can do a lot of stuff. So they have immensely made our lives better, but they're going to have the side effect potentially of causing us some problems with our climate. And so, the green revolution. And the other problem too, here's the problem with you got wind and solar. Wind and solar, it's going to take over. No, they're not reliable. When the sun goes down, you don't get anything from solar. When there's no wind, you don't get anything from wind.
Right.
So what they do right now is they have to keep their coal fire plant running, because you got to keep the water boiling. Because if that all of a sudden your turbines start to slow down, you got to pick up the load. Otherwise, you have brownouts and people's electronics burn out, and they aren't going to be happy.
That's true.
So they continue to burn the either the natural gas or the coal, so that they can pick up the loads when, and if everybody turns on their TV at the same time, and I don't have enough I have to crank up and supplement it with my coal fire plant. So we're sitting there burning coal, even if we're not using the electricity.
Right.
And we don't have batteries big enough to store electricity for countries. That's not a technology we have. So
no, not yet.
No, we got to technology has to step up. And I think it will. At some point here.
But not overnight.
No. They had that fusion reactor. They're working on fusion right now. The problem with fusion is that your sun's fusion. Your sun is doing fusion. So it tends to blow up, right? You fuse two things together, you get the mushroom cloud. That's a weapon, right? Well, they're trying to use fission now, and that's fusing two atoms of hydrogen or deuterium or something like that together. And what you do is you get a big amount of energy, and then you try to boil water with that, not vaporize it. And they used a laser, and they were able to get a self-sustaining reaction for just a few seconds. I mean, that's not much, but it's a step.
It's a start.
It's a start. So if we can get fusion, that's carbon free. You basically, something like if I take this mass and I fuse it, and I use this as an energy source, this probably could last the United States for a couple of years.
Oh,
so there's a lot of energy equals MC squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. So in mass, there's a lot of energy that you can convert back and forth to. And so that's the hope right now, is that we can come up with limitless energy, because that's what fusion would do for us potentially. Limitless energy, and then we got to do something with the power grid. We're going to have to upgrade it. It's one of the best things we can do. Is some of the power poles here were put up in the 1950s. You can tell they're all white. They're all because of the bleaching from all the rain and everything else. And so we got to come up with another system, or at least upgrade the one we have, so that we can carry the amounts of electricity we're asking it to carry. You put too much electricity through a wire, it burns out. Bulbs burn out, right?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of. So it needs to be upgraded, and we got it. And our technology has to. We have to make serious investments in the technology and to make that work. And remember, companies are working on their own little things.
Yes.
This is where government needs to stand in and say, no. Here's a contract. This is what we need you to work on.
Right.
And here it is. And so we can get something rolling along. But that's not being done. We're just going to do, EVs. We're going to throw out all these electric cars, and that's going to solve the problem. It's like, no, you got to have the infrastructure to support those before you can do it. And I don't think we have enough rare earth minerals in the United States. And our biggest supplier of that, of course, is China. And so we don't even have enough of that materials to make that many cars to replace. Yeah. So it's gas isn't going away for a while. You're going to see, I think hybrids are, that use at least gas to generate electricity. Batteries are not ever, we got to come up with a better battery. Lithium batteries are not the end all. They don't store as much energy for their weight as we would like.
Right.
We want them to do more. And so we got to get better battery technology. We got to get better, figure out how to use the materials we have and not have to rely on things that, have to go to countries don't like us for. We've got a lot of recycling too. We got to recycle a lot of stuff. We're going to throw, how many cell phones get thrown away? This has gold in it.
Oh yeah.
Silver. We need to recycle these. I mean, that's what we need to do because we're going to need that stuff in the future.
So that's your piece of advice for today. Recycle your cell phone.
Yeah, that's how we recycle.
Just throw
we're
them
going to
in
need
the
it
trash.
all. Yeah, that's it. Because you're looking at the population in the United States. We're at about 330 to 350 million, somewhere in that range, right? Yeah, but
that's
when I was a kid,
but
when I was a kid, it was only 150 million.
Yeah, doubled.
So
it's more than double.
So it's going to double in our lifetimes. It's probably going to, if it keeps going the way it is, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that says that's not going to happen. But it's still going to be a pretty big population, and it's going to require lots of resources. Humans, all animals use resources, but we use more. Like, you get a wolf, it's going to eat deer, right? Drink water, and that's it. We're going to eat meat. We're going to, eat plants, but we're also going to use electricity. We're also going to use aluminum. We're also going to use plastic, right? So
we
our
require a lot more
junk is really what it is, right? So we need to anytime we have it, we need to recycle it. We need to recycle it so that we can keep it going, just to keep it going. Some of the kids ask, "What do we have a problem with trash transport? Why don't we put it on a rocket and send it to the sun?" I said, "That's a really good idea. You know how much it costs to launch something into space? It's something like $1 million per pound. If you want to pay for that, and we're going to send 100 millions of tons of trash. And here's the other thing: we need that trash. That trash is resources that we're going to need in the future. Yeah. So at some point, all of these landfills that we have are going to be mined. We're going to go in. There's going to be companies that form to mine those and pull out the gold, the silver, all that kind of stuff that we just threw away. It's just like you just can't do that. The human body's really good. We take in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide. Plants take in carbon dioxide, they make sugar, release oxygen, and then it just rinses and repeats.
Yes.
So we work together and we recycle everything.
Yes.
There's only one thing that isn't recycled. You know what that is?
What?
I'll give you a hint. It's in the ocean.
Water?
No. What else? There's something else in the water.
There's fish.
No. You're going too big.
There's
Think
sand.
smaller.
I don't know. Know.
Salt.
Oh,
Salt
that.
Yeah. So sodium and chloride don't react with anything, so they accumulate. That's one of the only things we really don't recycle. Even iron will actually, rust. It turns into a different form, and then it'll be used by things like plants and things like that, and it reforms and everything. But salt doesn't. It just accumulates. It comes out of the rock. There's sodium and chloride that are naturally found in rocks, and it washes down, and so the ocean will get saltier over time.
Right.
But at a rate which the fish hopefully can adapt to. At least that's happened in the past. So yeah, that's but everything else is pretty much recycled. Even we're at a subduction zone. We talked about how North America is going under this. It's being recycled. So as it dies under, it melts, and then it erupts out as volcanoes and puts out new land. So the earth even recycles itself. It just takes a long time. It just takes a long time to do that.
Wow,
but recycling is the key.
In recycling today.
Oh, it's something that you have to do. Otherwise you have
makes sense.
Waste materials build up until they inhibit you. And one of those waste materials, we call it pollution.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not, that if you could capture the pollution, it's probably usable in some industry.
I'm sure.
We just throw it out. It's like, I don't care. and you really can't do that at least sustainably.
Right.
You can't do that. It'll come to an end. We'll poison ourselves. It's like, it's really weird how biology has some requirements. You have to eat, you have to drink, you need mates, you need space, blah, 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 right? But how you get that in biology doesn't matter. You can kill, you can steal. That's called predation, right? It's like animals will steal things from other animals, and you have rape and all these other kind of things that happen routinely in the animal kingdom and in our society too. It's usually considered bad unless you're in the army, then they train you to kill and it's okay. It's just weird how it works. But so we're gonna have to understand that's the how the system works. But we have to breathe clean air, we have to have clean water. And so we pollute the air, we pollute the water, we kill ourselves, and then the earth can clean it up and try somebody else.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, next maybe the cockroaches will have the next shot. The dinosaurs failed, so it's not unusual for that to happen. And so if we don't do things right, I don't know, whoever set this up, and I say whoever, like there was a creator, but in science we don't believe that. Right. But you're stuck. Here's what you have to do to live. You have to breathe, you have to eat. And if you can't do that, so I want to live forever. We better have lots of food. And it's like what I tell the kids is like, this growing old is good for you. Not in the long run, but in the short term, it's good for you because we'll all die and then you'll have a chance to fix it. And I think that's the way it's supposed to be. Because if we live forever, our kids would never get anything.
Right.
Because we own it all. Right.
Yeah.
But we're going to die. So the next generation has a chance. And then they're going to have babies to keep it going. If they don't have babies, then we all go extinct.
Right.
So I tell the kids, the reproductive system, the only system you don't need, but your species does. So if your reproductive system doesn't work, it doesn't matter to you, right? It's no big deal. However, if you can't have children, then you go stand next to the dinosaurs because you're all gone.
And hopefully they won't go home after class and make babies.
Well, that's where we talk about what you can afford.
Yeah. Don't go home and do this today, okay?
No, because it's like children now from age 0 birth to like age 18. This is not even counting college. It's like $1 million now or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Per kid.
Yeah. It is.
Oh my God. It's terribly expensive. That's the reason why our population is starting to wane. It's just because kids are so expensive.
They are.
And we can't afford them. We can't afford that many. So we see a lot of the advanced countries, their populations, the baby boomers were the big one, right? And we're all going into retirement. And then you have a smaller number of, at next, what is it? The millennials and the X gens and all these other kind of, they're coming up. They're smaller. So we'll have a smaller workforce to support a lot of these old people, right? So that's a demographic decline we're seeing in Japan, China. Russia's really hard because they're throwing a lot of young guys through a meat grinder right there in Ukraine, right? So they have to be super concerned about this whole demographic problem, right?
Right.
Almost all the countries in Europe, at least Western Europe, are having demographic problems. But the big one is Japan. Their population is actually dropping now.
Wow.
And because they didn't have very many kids, they were so expensive that they have all these old people and very few people. But they've been preparing. They do a lot with automation.
Yeah.
And so they're doing well. China, on the other hand, doesn't. And so I think we're going to see China have some serious demographic problems in the future. Yeah, and I think Russia is going to have them too, just because they're killing off a lot of their young guys now. That's not going to be good for them at all. But we're not as bad a shape. India is in really good shape. They have they have more kids than they have adults or the adult populations, and so they're poised to do really well in the future, just because they'll have all these children available for working, to get to that working age. So they're probably going to do really well. But that demographic stuff, that's you see, you hear that one child policy for that one child policy for China really kind of screwed them up because they didn't have enough kids to take over all the jobs that they're going to be vacated by their baby boomers, essentially.
Yeah, that's true.
And I said, okay, well, they got to figure it out. So just like we do.
Yeah.
So I did.
Okay. Well, I have a couple more questions.
All right, we got.
Did you have a favorite teacher?
Yes, I had two actually. One was in high school, was my science teacher in high school, Mr. Derbyshire.
Okay.
And he captured me pretty easy when he pulled out those microscopes.
Okay.
And so the same lab where we get these, they're called protozoans, these microscopic, you know, they're the individual cells, but they live on their own and they're their own species, or stentors and paramecium and all these other kind of stuff, right? And he brought those out and we looked at them with a microscope and I go, this is so cool. And he let me take those home. When he was done with them, I said, can I have these? And they were just little jars, right? I have these jars? He said, sure, take them with you. Go ahead and do it. And I went home and I cultured them myself. And my mom had got me a small microscope and I was like looking at stuff on, this is just insane. This is crazy. And that really kind of captured me. And then so I took just about anything and everything that guy taught.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's what
And
it
then
was.
who was the other one?
The other one was actually in college. It was when I went to Blue Mountain Community College, which is in Pendleton, which is only 20 miles from where I live. You know, I was working on the farm, so I was working on the mint farm, and then I would go to college and then come back and work on the mint farm. It's kind of how it worked. And so I went in there, and I initially had Dr. Jacobson. He was zoology. I was really interested in animals, and so I really wanted to get into animals. But this guy was terrible. Oh my gosh. He's my advisor, and he advised me to do things that end up being bad, me being wrong. And so I had problems with that. And then he just got there and lectured. And I go, oh, I don't want to do this. And so I happened to take a botany class from Dr. Urban. Carl Urban was his name. And this guy was your typical geek. He had glasses and he had tape on his glasses. He had a pocket protector. He was that typical guy. Had that Arnold Horshack, if you ever watch Welcome to Carter's Laugh, and everything. And I go, what a geek this guy is. But he was so cool and he made it so fun. It was plants. Plants aren't fun. They're kind of boring. It's going to stand there, right? Yeah. But he made it really, really fun. Oh. And I asked him if he would be my advisor. And he said, yeah, sure.
Wow.
He looked at the paper. What the hell did he do here? He screwed you up. Let's fix this. Yeah. And so I go, oh, he had me taking classes I didn't need. He had taking classes I did need, and so he fixed it. And he said, you're really super enthusiastic. You want to work in the greenhouse? I got a greenhouse. I need help. You want to help me? So I got $4.50 an hour working in the greenhouse.
Really?
Plants and everything else. And he came and said, I need to insulate this. How do I do that? Well, I'd worked on a farm. So I said, well, you can get these little clamps and put it on here and put this bubble wrap and we can insulate this easy. And he says, okay, do it. And so he was amazing. He was totally amazing. And he showed me that you could get anybody interested in anything. You get him interested in plants. You get anybody interested in anything at all. And so he wasn't hard. It was actually very easy. He would give you the test beforehand, and you go and look at it and say, oh, I can do this. And you get like 120% on the test. But then you figure out, it's like, hey, I know this. I've retained it. So you don't have to go through and say, here, study. No. What's the important things? Give it to them. They'll learn it, and then they'll put it on your test, and they know it. So you don't have to hide it from them and make it difficult. You can make it easy, and then they go, oh, I don't have to worry about the written part of this and the grade part of this. I can just learn what I'm supposed to learn.
Yes.
And that works. So my classes tend not to be super hard as long as they do the things, right? So I will give them a review, which has the questions on the test. Then they go through that, and then they should be ready for the test. But I can't get a lot of them to do that because it's not worth very much. Worth 10% of my grade. Yeah, but the test is worth 50. So if you do this, you get 10 plus 50.
Yeah,
that's what you need, right? So I have to work on the kids for that. But no, between Mr. Derbyshire and high school and Carl Urban, and he was really down to earth. He says, doctor, no, call me Carl. So when you find someone who isn't, a lot of science people are stuck up. I mean, arrogant. Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I'm super smart. You will address me as Dr. Walter Cannon, PhD.
Right,
but I have to call you Walter Cannon, PhD. that's something. I mean, they're just caught in their own intelligence, if you will. And to be fair too, is that your college professors are professors of their subject, not education.
Okay.
So a lot of them are not good teachers.
Okay.
I'm just going to talk at you, and I don't care if you don't pass. I don't care.
Right.
And and they don't go out of their way to try to get things out that will make things understandable. They don't. And so, but Carl wasn't that way. He was like, hell yeah, you don't understand it. Come over here and everything else. And it was like, I remember one time he came in, said, Carl, I got a problem with it. I don't understand this. He goes, he was a Seahawk fan. You can relate. He goes, the Seahawks are playing. I'm going to the bar. Come with me.
Really?
Oh, he did it on a napkin. He showed me how to do it on a napkin while we were watching the game in a bar.
What? That's a good story.
Oh yeah. He was a great guy. Great guy, is what it is, and he would do whatever he could. But he had to watch the Seahawks. That was just something he had to do.
I love it. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
But that's to be fair, that's the kind of people that changed people's lives.
Yes.
And I got that from him. I got the love of science. Well, I probably got that earlier, but reinforced the love of science from Mr. Derbyshire. But the teaching part of it, how you get kids to learn, really came from Dr. Urban. So that's what.
You make everything fun.
Well, that's because I learned from the best.
Yeah.
I mean, I really just copying other people.
You are a fun guy.
Well, I try to be. You have to. Yeah.
Even in real life, you're a fun guy.
Well, I hope so. But
you are.
But as a teacher, you gotta have some jokes. You gotta have some things to pull the kids in. You gotta be a little goofy, that kind of thing. That's the reason I have all the costumes that I wear.
Yes. How many do you have in your closet now? 50 costumes?
I don't know.
I've seen your costumes. They're elaborate.
Yeah, they're very elaborate. But that gets me a lot of kids will give me more of their attention because I made them laugh.
Yeah. And you're more relatable.
Yeah. And then if somebody asks me, why don't you wear a suit and tie? Because that isolates me from the kids.
Exactly.
If I wear a suit and tie, they're not going to come talk to me because now I put myself on a different level than them.
Right.
But if I wear my Star Wars t-shirt,
yes,
they go, Mr. Bird, do you watch Star Wars? Oh, heck yeah. Do you watch Mandalorian season 3? It was pretty good, kind of thing. And I can do that. I can relate with them because they are into this same kind of things that I still am today. From, they say whatever you are into when you're 12, you retain that for the rest of your life.
And you did.
Really true. Yeah. It's like comic books and Star Wars, because I saw Star Wars when I was 12. It's when it first came out. Right.
And you are a big kid.
The thing I tell kids is you don't ever want to grow up. You want to be an adult.
Right.
But you don't want to grow up, because when you grow up, you tend to put yourself in a box.
Yes.
And the world is like, think about Democrats and Republicans. You put yourself in a box and you can't get out of it.
Right.
You don't want to do that. You
No.
want to listen to everybody, and they could be right. You always have to remember that.
Yeah.
They could be right. You may have an idea in your head you think is right, but it actually isn't.
Right.
So many of our ideas that we
listen.
have aren't right. Yeah. Especially in science, it's like, you realize that James Webb telescope that we sent up here, was it 2 years? I guess it's 2 years now. Is actually putting big, huge dents in the Big Bang Theory. Yeah, because they're finding galaxies that are older than our universe, which is a problem because you really can't be older than your mother. Yeah, so there's what's going on here? So our big, long-standing Big Bang Theory might be wrong. Oh yeah,
okay.
But
we're gonna have to research this.
Oh yeah, to be fair, the theories are somebody's best guess because science can't test everything.
Yeah.
Science, I want to know what a volcano's like. I'll bring Mount St. Helens into my classroom. That's not going to happen. So geology is strictly an observation-based science. You observe and you try to think about what could be going on.
Try to figure it out.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I have one more question.
All right.
And it's about your favorite subject. We already touched on it a little, but I know you have a fascination with superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And which one is your favorite and why? If you have to pick one, and you have to pick one, you have to. I know you don't want to, but on this interview, you have to.
I suppose if I had to pick one, it'd be like Captain America.
Okay.
And the reason why is because here's somebody who puts themselves ahead, puts everybody else ahead of themselves.
Oh,
And that's the nature of a superhero. Now, superhero, we often think of like Captain America, Iron Man, Superman, blah, blah, blah. They have these
yeah,
incredible powers.
right.
But in our day, Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, James Bond, all of these guys, these were superheroes.
Yeah.
They did things that nobody else could do,
Okay.
right? So to understand that part of it is that a superhero just puts somebody else ahead of themselves is really what it is. And you aren't doing things for yourself. That's a super villain. Somebody who does preys upon somebody else to do things for themselves is a super villain. So it's just a microcosm of modern society and what we think, right? So we got this. So we got the criminal. We have the ultra, the servant, if you will, right? That's what it is. I dedicate myself to serving other people. And that's supposed to be politics, but that tends not to be that way anymore. It's unfortunate. But that's the one that I would pick. I think I have them right over here. That's Captain America right there. That's what happens, right?
Where?
Right there. That
On the side?
Yeah, that's a picture of Captain America.
Okay, I can kind of see it. Yeah.
There. But that's I think one of the things that we all should do is if we all helped other people,
Yes.
other people would help us.
Right.
And when we tend to help people and we need help, we get it. But if we don't help people or actually hurt them, or don't help them, when we need help, they don't come to us.
Right.
That's
You're good at helping other people.
Well, I don't. It's built in now. I can't help not.
So why did you come up and put up our Christmas lights?
Well, it's like I wasn't asked.
I'm just kidding.
It's like I've done it before. I probably do it again.
Hey, you want to help? Why don't you come clean our house?
But my version of clean and and at least Rachel's version of clean are not the same. It's like I walk in, this looks good. I'm out.
That's great. Thanks.
There's hair this high in your house. Yeah, that would work. I could do that. Yeah, that's it. I'll look around and say, "Oh, this looks good." And she goes, "No, it's dirty. It's dirty. It's dirty." And I'll pull out the vacuum cleaner and go over what I think is a perfectly clean rug because that's what she wants, and that's the way it's got to be. So,
well, the main point is help others, and
yeah, well, it's
you help
rewarding
others,
too.
they'll help you back.
I'll tell you this last thing here. I had a kid who really struggled in high school. Right, he went through my sophomore class and he passed, but he really had to work hard, and he was good. I mean, and that's the kind of kid you want. You don't want this super smart one, the one that will work, right? And then he took another class from me, I think his senior year, and he did way better. He actually, he pulled an A after struggling. He got a C back in biology. So 2 years later, I was like, "Way to go, Alex! Way to go! You did a great job. You keep at it. This is awesome. You're doing great." Well, he went to college, and he went a term. He actually worked at Panda for a long time too.
Okay.
So anyway, so he came back and I don't know, it was after school. He walked in the door and I said, "Hey, Alex, how you doing?" And I go, shook his hand, and he goes, "I want to let you know, Mr. Porter, I got an A, 3 B's, and a C in college, and it's all because of you."
Oh,
yeah, he was, and so he attributes his success to what I did when I worked with him in my classes, to get him to a level where he could go and be successful at.
That's so rewarding, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It
is. Things like, I'm sure you've heard that a lot from other kids.
Oh gosh, I have some kids I'm still in contact with every week. Jared Cheney, who's that vice president for Software One I was telling you about.
Yeah, you play games with him.
Yeah, I play games with him. Yeah. And he tells me, he talks, he comes in and talks to the kids. He's donated computers to the school. He's done all kinds of things because of, and with the teacher.
Because of you.
Yeah, but it's a relationship you make with the kid. It's not just I'm your teacher.
Right.
We become not only teacher and student, but we become friends as well.
I think that's great.
And when you get that kind of contact, the kid's always successful.
Oh, of course.
If they need something or whatever else, they'll email and say, "Hey, what should I do here?" I get that from kids now.
And you make
We'll email
yourself
you.
available to answer people's questions, which is
Oh
what
yeah. Oh yeah. It's
I'm
like,
sure they love.
I see it
Very
and I
helpful.
have to do it. I don't have a choice. It's, yeah, I don't know. It's,
You do it anyway.
I'm trained. That's how it is. So I have my school email on my cell phone. So if I get an email from a parent, I stop whatever I'm doing and
Oh,
take care of it right then and there. You know, it's just, I don't have to. I could say no, but that's a parent who's concerned about their kid. That doesn't happen every day.
right.
And
That's
so
exciting,
what,
actually.
yeah, yeah,
Somebody cares.
somebody cares. Yeah. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to nurture that because if we can tag team this kid, we can get him through.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I don't know. But that's it. I think, too, is that, they always say if you're looking for a spouse that is going to a long lasting relationship, there's three places you look. You look in church because they put themselves out there for somebody who's not even there. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
oh yeah. And the next one is anybody in healthcare, nurses, doctors, these guys, they take care of people who are not in good shape and they do it every single day. Right.
Okay.
And teachers.
So if you're looking for a spouse,
Yeah.
you
Because
should
they're the
look for
ones
someone
that
who
will,
goes to church.
yeah,
Someone
because
who,
they'll stick with somebody through thick and thin.
and what are the three? Someone who's in church, someone who is in healthcare,
Healthcare and
and a
somebody who's a
teacher.
teacher. Yeah.
Well,
Those
then, well, we don't have any of those.
yeah, we do. I got a whole
I mean,
bunch of them.
well, I'm with Mark for a long time, but
Well, that's
we
it.
met at the gym.
Yeah, but Rachel and I are teachers. This will be, 30. We'll be together 40 years.
I was going to say, you better get this right. Do you know
Yeah,
how many
it's gonna be
years?
40 years because this is 34. We were together 6 years before we got married.
Okay. The
So it's 40 years.
calculations.
Yeah, I had to think about it for a second, but yeah, 40 years. This is 40 years that we've been together, and it's
Yeah.
not going to end. It just can't. We don't.
It
give
will
up
not
on each
end.
other. No,
No,
Yeah.
of course not. Better not.
no. But 50% divorce in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like insane.
Well, I
right?
think we will last too, even though we're not teachers.
Yeah. Well, it happens
I do.
outside.
I am
This
a
is true.
coach.
That helps.
I do interviews.
Well, you're doing this to help other people.
I am.
So you're a
So that
teacher.
means we'll stay together because
No,
Mark
that's-
always likes to help other people too. So
Yeah, but you're a teacher. You are teaching, right?
okay, thank God. So it will last now that
Yeah,
I'm
because if you, we always say a teacher is in a school. That's not the case. Anybody
That's
who teaches, if you do a Zumba class, you're a teacher.
That's
You're doing something for other people. Sometimes it's like, well, I charge people, but you kind of have to because you need to eat. But that's
Yes.
one of the things. I get paid as a teacher, right?
right.
So you got to have some resources coming in. But if you do something for the betterment of somebody else, you are a teacher.
Okay, because I've been
know?
blogging to help others really for about 12 or 13 years now. And
So
it's
you've
always
been a
like I
teacher
take
for 12 to
whatever's
13.
helped me and I write about it, or I've written
Yeah.
some books of what I've gone through in order to help others. So
That's it. So you're a teacher.
that means that Mark, we're going to last
Yeah.
for a long
Well,
time.
if you can dedicate yourself to people you don't even know,
Yeah.
you can definitely dedicate yourself to somebody who's standing right there.
Can I?
You must have. You're
Okay.
doing it.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to share that I didn't ask?
No, not that I can think of.
You probably,
It's
need
like,
you probably need a nap after this.
oh no.
This might be a
Probably.
two-parter.
I was like looking outside and saying, if it's not raining, I might go out and start putting up the Christmas lights. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, then come here when you're done and you can help Mark. Because you know what he's doing right now? He's putting
What's-
up the tree.
You put up the tree. Oh, that's
Mhm.
good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So I would love to have the lights up again, but it's fun to watch you two. It's hilarious to watch the two of you put up lights. And you're really
Yeah.
tall and he's not. And it's just, and you're on the ladder because he doesn't want to go
doesn't- he
up.
doesn't
And then
like
I
the
see you
ladder.
in the window while I'm doing some interview. I'm like, hi, Steve.
There I am. It's true. It's very true.
Yeah.
If
Well,
he
it's a
wants me
nice
to,
day.
if he wants me to, just have him text me, come over
Okay.
and help him out.
Well, thank you. Okay. And I have one more question.
Oh yeah. What is it?
What time is Thanksgiving?
You're asking the wrong
I'm
person.
just kidding. I already know.
I'm a great teacher, scheduler. No. Time? No, that's I have to have, my wife is the timekeeper.
I know.
You'll have
Well,
to text
I'll
her.
tell you when it is. We're all getting together at 1:00.
Oh, it's 1:00. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, so there. Now you don't have to ask
Good.
her. I
No,
told you.
well, I wouldn't ask her anyway. She'd
Yeah.
just tell me. So go get the table, go get stuff, and I just do it. That's
Just
the way it
sit
works.
down. Yeah.
No, she's the organizer. This all works because of her.
I know
right?
I'm the same way. Mark just says, just tell me where we're going, where we need to be. That's it. Like, I don't even say, can we? I just say, here's what we're doing. And he said, that's fine. Because he doesn't want to think about anything.
Well, my job is
Just
to
tell me
carry
where I
the
need to be.
boxes and get rid of the spiders.
Well, him too. Yeah. And birds, whatever
I
birds
understand.
land on our ugh, that's another. Well, you've come and gotten rid of our birds too, because I'm too squeamish. But anyway, thank you for coming. I hope you can come on the show again.
Oh, anytime. I don't mind this at all. This is something that I kind of do, kind of repeat myself. So I have 3 biology classes in a row. So I have to repeat myself 3 times in a row every day.
Well, you know what you can do? You can just show them this video and then you can just go out and have lunch.
They couldn't stay. They couldn't sit that still for that long.
Oh, that's true. Okay. And
Listen.
where can people find more about you? I'll put it in the show notes, but
I don't really don't have any social media.
we have the
as far as that
website.
is.
You have,
We
you
have the school
the
website.
school. Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, it's gowarrenton.com.
GoWarrenton.com. Okay, I'll
That's
put that in
where
the show.
that's what I can find my email there anyway. So
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. This was really fun.
good. I'm glad.
I can't believe you did it. I'm so excited. So
Oh yeah.
this is great.
Talk about science. I'm right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you maybe later today, or if not, I'll see you on Thanksgiving.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.